So you're here because you want to know how gaming can actually be good for you. Something widely considered a waste of time, something with nothing to be gained. But what if that isn't actually true? Let's get into it. So in this video, we're going to cover the common outside perspective on gaming, the common inside perspective on gaming, my perspective and the benefits of gaming, and how to put this all into practice. So what's the common outside perspective on gaming? Well, I'm sure we've all heard this before, that it's not a good use of time, that there's nothing to be gained. And I've felt this before, like in conversations, it's kind of something to minimize. And I totally identify this. This was my experience with gaming. I started competitive gaming when I was 11 at the advent of broadband internet. I think it was like 1997. And by the time I hit university, it wasn't really something I felt like I could make space for in my life because it wasn't really that well accepted. I felt that becoming an adult meant that I couldn't really have time to game. It wasn't really that acceptable of a hobby, especially when you're trying to grow your career. But what this perspective is missing is that it can actually be good for you if it's used correctly. But before we get there, let's jump into the common inside perspective on gaming. So let's set the stage. In an online ranked queue environment where your winning and losing directly affects your rank, your winning and losing in some ways depends on the teammates you get paired with. Well, what does this create? It creates a really toxic environment. Think of the things that are commonly associated with ranked queues, whether you're playing League of Legends or Valorant or CSGO. People flame teammates, they blame each other, they argue. That's kind of an external thing. If you think about the internal things, what do people do? They talk about the idea of like losers queue, that the game is making it such that they lose. They talk about the idea of like elo hell, that you're going to be stuck there forever. All of this fundamentally boils down to this toxic environment, this very difficult environment creates a situation where people often blame other people and often never blame themselves. Instead, they adopt a victim mindset, which is a really huge problem. And so part of the question is, why do people adopt a victim mindset? Well, partly because it's really satisfying. It's satisfying not to look at yourself when you make mistakes. It's pretty satisfying to have it be someone else's problem. And it's pretty satisfying to think that it's really just Riot or the game maker or the queue system that's creating a rigged game structure that isn't allowing you to advance. It can feel good to blame your teammates and not yourself. And so this is the big point that all of those victim mindset behaviors miss, that the only common denominator between all of your games is you. And so the only way to change things in the long term is for you to change. So what's the sum total of all this? It's that the ranked environment is really quite a difficult one. Not just quite a difficult one, it's really difficult, having lost my temper online before. But this is where I'm going to define a really useful term, and it's called a crucible. And I'll read out the definition for you here, which is a crucible is defined as a place or situation in which concentrated forces interact to cause or influence change or development. And if we were to sum that up, it's a difficult environment where change has to happen. But let's note that crucibles are actually neutral. They're neither good nor bad. You can change for better or for worse. And clearly, if we look at the ranked environments, these crucibles really without intention, they often create really bad changes. But that doesn't have to be the case. They can be for good. Which brings us to my next point, which is my perspective on all of this and the benefits of gaming. So my perspective is really influenced by Coach Curtis and Coach Nathan. Shout out to them. They're from the League of Legends scene. They're coaches, and I think they're a really positive influence in this gaming sphere. They really changed my opinion on what ranked environments, what playing games can really mean. We've already settled on the fact that ranked environments are really difficult and that they can be for good or for bad. So what does it look like for them to be for good? If they're a really difficult environment, then you can use this difficult environment to develop really foundational life skills. So you're probably wondering, like, what are these foundational life skills you're talking about? Well, there's a lot of them, and each one of them could probably be a video unto themselves. So I'm going to go over them pretty quickly. If you would like me to do a video to spend more time on one of them, please put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to make that video, but we'll jump into it now. And the first one's a really big one. It's growth mindset. And so what is a growth mindset? This is a really big one, and it's been a big part of my journey. It's been a big part of the journey of, I think, everyone that I've worked with and helped through the years. And it's that you're not fixed. Your intelligence, all of these traits, these negative stories often we have about who we are, they don't have to be. You do change and you can change. And so you're malleable, you can grow. And so what is the growth mindset? It fundamentally is that you're going to put your focus on effort rather than results. And you're going to believe in the power of yet, which is saying things like, I'm not a diamond player yet, or I'm not good at crosshair placement yet, instead of I'm not good at these things and I'll never be good at them. The next one is grit. And so what is grit? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's cultivating passion and perseverance in pursuit of your goals. Anything you do in life at some point is going to get hard. And so grit is being able to stick with it. In my experience, the hard things are always the best things. And if you don't have grit, if you don't have the experience of pushing through that, you'll never experience that. And the next is internal locus of control, which is in contrast to an external locus of control. So an external locus of control believes that the environment, everything else outside of you, really is the determining factor. An internal locus control believes that you actually have the power and the capability to influence your environment and your results. And this is a really important point. You often see this in people where they have a victim's mindset. They don't feel like they can change anything, and so they don't. But you also know other people that really feel like they can make their own breaks. And it's a really different mindset. It will be really difficult for people with a victim's mindset or an external locus of control to actually be able to accomplish things in life. And the next one is self-efficacy, which is fundamentally your belief that you can complete tasks or goals if you go after them. That if you put your mind to something, that you can do it. You won't be able to accomplish things in life if you don't believe you can go and complete the things that you need to do or want to do or dream of doing. This one's a big one that I think people don't realize, which is cultivating positive self-talk. We all have voices in our head that we listen to. We always have thoughts running in our head. What we don't realize is some of those voices inhibit us and some of them really benefit us. I'm sure we've all had a voice in our head that goes, you can't do that, or you always make that mistake, or you're never going to be good at this. Just imagine if you were warming up for a sport or anything really, and you warmed up in the fetal position. Like you wouldn't feel like you could do much from there, which is I think why you don't see people warm up in the fetal position. That's kind of how it is when you walk into something like playing a ranked game and you allow that negative self-talk to be the primary thing in your head. Not much is possible from there. And so it's really important to be able to notice that, number one, and then choose positive self-talk. So EQ is the next one, and EQ is super important. People with EQ are better able to manage and understand and be aware of their own emotions, and they're better able to manage other people's emotions and be aware of them as well. And so people with EQ have more positive relationships. People view them more positively, and they have higher life satisfaction, amongst other things. Fundamentally, EQ allows you to get along with people and figure things out. It's a super useful tool. It's a super useful trait. It just makes life a lot easier if you have EQ. And so this is like the really big point. If you develop these life skills within the crucible, the challenging environment of a ranked queue, then you can take those skills and bring them to other places. You can take the EQ you have and get along with your coworkers. You can use your growth mindset in school and in your job and your career. You can apply grit to your health and working out or your diet. The applications are kind of endless, and they're all super important and super foundational to allowing those good things to happen in your life. A quote that has always stuck with me is that we overestimate what we can accomplish in 6 months, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in 5 years. So once you put these skills into place, where can you go? Who can you become? These are the questions that this unlocks. So I'm sure you're wondering, how do we put this into practice? Well, the first caveat is that it doesn't work if there's not some structure, some scaffolding around this. There will be no benefit to you binge gaming 8 to 12 hours a day. It will not result in any of these skills accruing or growing in you. And so again, I'm borrowing from Coach Curtis and Coach Nathan from League of Legends that it really makes sense to structure this gaming in 3 game blocks. And that's assuming games are around 45 minutes. So each block will be around 2 hours and 15 minutes. You play 3 games and then you go do something else. You go outside, you go for a walk, you eat lunch, you touch grass, whatever. You need to have breaks in between your game planning. If this is a binge experiment, like none of this works. So that's the first caveat to all of this. So because this is a gaming topic, we're going to do this based on levels. So level 0 is the foundation, and it's really about cultivating an internal locus of control. And so the first step, before you even do anything else, is realizing that you are the only constant in all of your games. And so this all kind of comes back to you. You have to remember that your rank is right where you're actually supposed to be. And you have to be able to accept that. You want to improve, it's on you. It's not on anyone else. And so it means you have to let go of this idea of elo hell or loser's queue. You have to actually look at the problem right in the face and understand that this is you. And so with that foundation in place, we can move on to level 1, which is cultivating a growth mindset and self-efficacy. And so we're going to do just like a really quick thought experiment here. And this is to help you cultivate your own growth mindset. Think of anything you've learned in your life, preferably something that's hard. Well, you didn't start off knowing that, did you? You actually had to learn it. And so fundamentally, if you've learned anything in your life, you demonstrated that not only is the growth mindset possible, it's true. And so knowing that, know that the rest of you is the same. It's not different. It may not be easy, but it's certainly not impossible. And so you can adopt a growth mindset in your games. You can adopt self-efficacy in your games. And so what does this look like? It means looking at your games, VOD reviewing, understanding what your mistakes are, learning from other pros or other videos of concepts that you need to apply to your own gameplay. It means looking at what you're doing and trying to improve, whether that's drills or having a particular focus when you're playing. And this is where once you start to apply this, you'll see that you're going to improve. If you focus on the effort, the results will come. And once you do that, it's amazing because you get into an upward spiral. If you focus on this growth mindset, if you focus on effort, the results will come. If the results come, it'll reinforce your self-efficacy that you believe you can do things. And that will reinforce your growth mindset. It's circular in a good way. And it'll benefit you in so many ways to really grow this mindset so you can apply it to other places. And so this is all connected. If you believe that when you apply yourself, you can get better at things, it's also going to help you cultivate grit. When you inevitably hit a plateau or a hard spot, if you fundamentally believe that you can improve on things, well, then that gives you a lot of self-belief to get back at it. It's the foundation of grit. And so once you build this belief in yourself, it'll help you keep moving forward, especially when things are difficult. And so the next one's about cultivating your EQ with the focus on mental discipline and your emotional control. And so we've all been there in a game where someone else, a teammate, makes a mistake that you think is not intelligent, and it causes you to want to get mad at them or insult them, or you just get really frustrated. Well, that's not beneficial to you playing well. And so this is where we can experiment and figure out what works well for you. Like, what are the things that help you calm down? And none of these are catch-alls. They don't work for everyone, but there's enough out there that I'm confident one of these things will work for you. And if one of the ones I don't suggest works for you, there are tons of other techniques or things that you can use. So the first one I'm going to talk about is box breathing, which is when you inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and then hold that for 4 counts. And so you might find that helps you through focusing on your breath, release those emotions. Another one, and this is from Andrew Huberman, it's called a psychological sigh, which is where you inhale 2 short breaths through your nose, and then you exhale slowly. And so I've personally found that this actually works pretty well for me in helping me calm down. And the last one, and this is probably a more nuanced one, is to just stay with the emotion. Most of us stay angry or stay frustrated because we ruminate on it. We think more and more about the idea, and then the idea keeps bothering us. And so one way to deal with this is to just stay with the emotion. Don't think about it, just feel it in your body. And you'll find if you stay with the emotion that often it just dissipates. So try these out, see how they work for you. You might find one works better than the other, but one thing out there will work for you. It's just a matter of figuring it out. And once you've mastered this, we can move on to level 3. And so level 3 is about cultivating positive self-talk. And so before you can cultivate positive self-talk in the game, you need to think about it outside the game. And so you need to think about what are actually the core attributes, the core traits that you have that are good, that are strengths, things that you can rely on and build yourself up during the game. It's really important that these are true, that you believe it, because it doesn't really support you at all to build yourself up with self-talk that you inherently know isn't that true. So think about what your strengths are. Maybe ask your friends what they think your strengths are and lean into those. And then how do we apply this in game? Well, that's where you need to be aware when that critical self-talk pops up. When that part of you goes, oh, you always make that mistake, or you never know when to make the right play, or you're always making the wrong decisions. Notice that critical self-talk. Know that that's getting actually in the way of your performance. And from there, we can choose to replace it with a positive self-talk. And this is where it's important that you've thought about it outside the game. Lean into it. Notice how it changes your physiology, how you feel, and your energy. And then put it into use. And so moving on to level 4, this is about cultivating EQ to build up your teammates. So we've already worked on ourselves. We're not flaming people anymore. Now it's about taking ownership, not just of yourself, but helping your teammates perform. So what does this look like? It means taking ownership when you've made a bad play so that they don't blame you and you get ahead of that conflict. And it can also mean building them up when they do make a good play. There's no formula here. It's really about figuring out what works for you. I can't give you the exact words. It's up to you to try and figure out what works for you to build up other people. And that's also authentic to you, because part of this, it needs to be real. It can't be fake. And so this means it has to come from your voice, which I can't give you. And so level 5 is to know that we're just all on a journey. We all want the answers. We would all like to Google, how do I be the best version of myself? How do I self-actualize? What is the optimal way for me to do certain things? And we all know that that's not possible. There's no way Google knows that. There's no way I know that for you. There's no one else in the world that can figure it out for you. So it's really about you experimenting and trusting yourself, believing that you can figure this out. And so on this journey, you're going to understand yourself better, and it's going to help you perform better. It's going to help you achieve those things that you want to achieve. Ultimately, through this journey, you know best. And so that's it. I really hope this was helpful for you, or maybe your parents, or maybe your significant other, whoever it is in your life. If this video is helpful, please like and subscribe. If you agree or disagree, if you have other thoughts, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. And lastly, I'll be releasing a Valorant-focused podcast with my friend Dopai. So if you're interested in that, please stay tuned. Until next time, have a great day.